Welcome to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, created and hosted by Scott Knudsen, to explore the crossroads of horses and business. Now here's your host, Scott Knudsen.
Hi, and welcome to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Scott Knudsen. We want to thank you so much for joining us today. Whether you're listening to us on the radio, on our great NBC radio affiliate out in California, KCAA, or watching our podcast on one of our many platforms from Spotify to iHeart and many others, we want to thank you. And please don't forget to hit the subscribe button on YouTube on Cowboy Entrepreneurs channel. We want to thank you. And this is part two of part one. And we had such a great response. We wanted to have Marvin back. And Marvin Schroeder, Marvin is a weapons master and armorer. He has worked on so many movies and TV shows and live theater. He's a props master. He's a wrangler. He started the Frontier History Company. He's a historical coordinator. And he just does so much. And, man, it was so much fun to have him on. And we couldn't wait to get him back. And we listened. So thank you for all the messages wanting him back. So we did it as fast as his schedule allowed. And right now, Marvin is in Fredericksburg, Texas, at the Fredericksburg Theater Company, working on a live theater production of The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. And we know that's going to be a great run, 12 or 13 shows there. And Marvin, welcome back.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Oh, we're doing well, man. I'm glad I got all that out, so now I can just talk.
That was a mouthful. Of course, now you tell everybody about all this stuff I've done. It's like one of these days I'm going to learn one of these things.
I just want to know a little bit about each one. It's so interesting to me. And, you know, I grew up watching Westerns and I watch them now. Sure. I just love it. I love history and I love accurate history. And I think that's why the response has been so strong to what you've done. And since you're in Fredericksburg at the theater, in Fredericksburg Theater right there in Fredericksburg, Texas, can you talk about when you do a production like that, how does that work? Because everything is accurate from the period clothing to the weapons to the guns for Liberty Valance. So you just roll up a trailer, or how does that work?
Well, you know, you get with the production crew, the director especially, because he's going to call the shots on what he wants and how they're looking at it. And they'll take the play and they'll break it out and they say, okay, and you got your set design people, you got your people setting the stage. Well, then you come in and fill all the gaps, like the property, you know. All right, we're going to set up a saloon at the scene. Well, in the saloon, they want a stove in the corner. They want this. So you got all this stuff. Well, over the years, I've collected a lot of this stuff. So, you know, okay, we're going to have shot glasses, whiskey bottles, and all the parts and pieces that go with it. And one of the fun parts was, you know, they got a scene there where a guy walks in with a shovel. Well, find a 1800 shovel that's not all rusted out or rotten. And so people go like, where'd you come up with that? You know, and well, that's what I do. But you have to read it and try to talk with everybody and say, okay, what are you looking for? And they'll tell you, you know, pretty much the angle they're going at, the desire they're looking for. And the same thing with the costume. You know, you get with the costumer, and I've got a lot of experience with that. So you say, okay, late 1800s, early 1900s, or where are we going with this? And you cut a lot of slack with it because, remember, clothing for the men didn't change a whole lot. The women's clothing, though, changed just all the time, constantly. You know, the Paris fashions came in, boy, that was the new thing. And they would send out those books and magazines that women go, oh, I got to have that, you know. So, but the cowboys, you know, we pretty much stayed in some of the same clothing. Now, in the cities, the men dressed differently. The hats were probably predominant thing that changed. You know, you went from the cowboy fedora to a bowler hat or something like this, and it's surprising to see a cowboy on the frontier wearing a bowler hat and he's strapping a 6-gun on. You're going like, okay, what is that? Well, it's just the times. It's a sign of the times where they were. Yeah.
Right. I love that. And theater and Westerns the country life went hand in hand back in the 1800s, didn't it? Because that was the only form of entertainment.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and it's funny because it will go to a live production, and you don't know what you're going to see at that thing. You might have a juggler on there, you might have a guy doing tricks or something, or you might have a little mini show or something to do. And they're traveling shows kind of thing. But if you had a more developed town where they could had a theater, they bring in light productions, you know, and that was kind of fun. Musicals were very, very popular in this time, you know, so that was the other thing that was kind of fun.
Well, was it like Tombstone? Because Tombstone looked real. You know, was it like that when the travelers would come in and the artists would come in and do their show and the cowboys would shoot up the roof or the ceiling?
I doubt the Cowboys would go shooting up the roof because guess what's going to do when it rains?
Yeah,
You
elite.
know,
Yeah.
That was kind of I think a little ad lib there. They kind of did and say, okay, well let's have some little action. No, you're not going to do that. And remember, you do have law and order. So if some cowboy sitting there shooting up the roof or something, he's not going to be sitting there very long. If he's not going to be behind bars, they're going to take the gun away from him.
Right.
You know, that's just common sense. But the movie was loosely based on accuracy. They did a good job on the costume and the sets and the characterizations. The actors did great jobs with it. Yeah. So it was where the director was taking the film and how they wanted to portray it on screen. You know, and that was a major hit. And they did a darn good job, I thought, on the accuracy. I noticed in the weapon world of what they're all carrying, they were carrying up-to-date weapons at that time, which made sense, you know, so that was pretty good. You didn't see a lot. I love
how you look at that, Marvin, with the guns and you're checking the date, and I think that has to be fascinating. I loved how they showed how they lived. It was rough.
Yes.
It was tough, and they didn't come to town a lot. So you have this rough culture, but then you have theater coming into town, or a musician or a juggler, and they kind of contradict each other a little bit.
Yeah, what's that? They say East meets the West. Well, it's just like so the old meets the new. You know, here's a new fashion, and all of a sudden, wow, we got to do this, you know. And think about like for Tombstone, for example, in the 1880s, you know, it's starting to come out of nowhere. It was a mining town, and all the stuff going on with that, and you know, the movement west. You're still pretty much south part of the country, so it's still a rough area. You know, there's a lot of characters in that part of the world. If anybody follows, and you just take one of those guys and look him up of the characters, how he crossed the United States, and they all wound up in Tombstone, which is interesting to say the least.
It really is, yeah.
So that's pretty good how they did that job.
That's awesome.
The job of the armor on that would have been massive because there was a lot of guns. You're covering all the bases, and it's probably more than one guy. There's probably 3 or 4 guys working that, you know, because there's so much action in it.
Wow, it was really good. It was like they put you into the movie, and you felt like you were a part of it.
Yeah,
I love that. So back to live theater. So when you pull up to a live theater, you know, maybe you're doing 30 people, or maybe it's a movie you're doing where there's several hundred. What's the difference, and how do you kind of maybe costume a little bit different, or is it the same, or armor on?
Well, again, theater's a little different in a lot of ways, because on theater, once that stage goes up, it goes. There's not, okay, cut, let's reset, that guy's shirt's not buttoned right, or his tie's on crooked, or that gun belt's not right. You can't do that. So theater, that's why you rehearse and rehearse and rehearse, and to get everybody where they want to be. And you might be changing costumes to look at it and say, well, that looks better on him. In fact, I think we're at 2 weeks into this thing, and we just changed one of our main actors' hats. You know, it just doesn't look right. And we sat around and had a conversation, and we all agreed. So yesterday, out of nowhere, we found another hat to fit him, and wow, there it was. And it just jumps out and speaks of him and says, "This is the character that he needs to be."
I love that. I love the attention to detail, and especially you know, in Fredericksburg, the theater there, in community theater, any theater, when you have that, our movie, when you have the detail, the story becomes believable.
Sure it does. And it doesn't take the modern public today has access to all these computers and all the internet now. And somebody says, well, I'm doing this and this and this. And they get on there and type it up and type, oh, wow, here's pictures of back then. So they can relate to that. You know, they go, oh, wow, that looks pretty good. Oh, wow, that looks pretty good. You know, or if you do something wrong, they'll hit you real hard there, too. They'll say, this is supposed to be 1930s. And all of a sudden, here's a guy standing there in a 1980s suit going like, excuse me, that just doesn't look right, you know.
Yeah.
And the public is your best critic because they will tell you real fast how well you do, even if they've never done it like that before. So everybody's a historian at that point.
Absolutely. Well, everybody is just one click away from knowing history.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully it's correct history, and that's where another thing we're going to talk about later in the show is so important what you're doing. But so when you're doing maybe a live theater show or an event for like 6 to 10 people. Or if it's a movie with several hundred, what's harder to costume? I know there's a lot more pieces, but with just a fewer amount, isn't that there's more focus on them? Right.
You get that individual time. It's a lot more fun actually working on a smaller size production of any kind because you get 1-to-1 with everybody. And everybody, we're all doubling up on some pieces of that, so it helps. But we have a costumer, and she's got it nailed on what she's doing. All I'm doing is behind the scene, help support her and say, what are you looking for? What do you need? And making sure we try to keep it as close as we can for them. Yeah, that's what we do. So yeah, the theater is more fun too because it's real. There's no camera, there's no equipment, all and stuff stumbling over. You've got the actors, you got a set, and you learn your lines and go.
Right. Makes sense. So what is one thing that you see in movies or TV today with either the costumes or the guns? Because the Westerns, people say it's coming back. For me, it never left. I found the places where they were showing them. But what do you see in more of the modern movies and TV shows that is not quite right? Is it the way they holster their pistols, or is it their clothing?
It's a combination of stuff. You can tell, when you get around guns and people wearing them and handling them, you can tell really fast if this character actually knows what he's doing with it, how he wears it, and how he handles it. It's just, it's a tool, all right? And you got to know your tools. And sometimes they get over the top on this exaggeration of a fancy holster or something that just doesn't look, and you're going like, wait a minute, why is that gun barrel sticking 4 inches out of the bottom of the holster? Somebody cut the holster off or what? Well, it just, you can spot it. But yeah, some of the days I think they're also moving too fast. They don't take the time to get into that detail. It's just go, 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 go. And it's people today want the action and all the stuff and moving. Well, that takes a little bit of its authenticity away because it doesn't show the grittiness, the tough times of the world, And there's I think the Westerns are coming back at different levels. You go everything from the TV series Deadwood to 1883 to then these little quick Westerns that are being shot. And it's a matter of budgets, really how much time they're going to spend and what kind of budget they can put on it.
Right. Makes sense. I was watching one the other day, and I love it just because they're trying hard, or maybe they're just trying. But there was one holster, and it was beaded out or rhinestoned out, with the silver, but it wasn't dirty. It was bright. I'm thinking, I go down my dirt road and my truck is filthy.
Exactly.
So you would think that holster's dirty.
I did a show one time for the BBC, and we were trying to set it all up, and the people in the costume said, well, how are we going to dirty them? I said, well, are they all on horse? Yeah. I said, so I'm out of the horse. And I said, follow me. We rode down this road about a mile and a half, came back, and everybody's cutting it. And I said, now, just lightly, everybody shake, and it falls off, whatever. But what sticks. And they're going like, wow, that looks real. And I said, well, it is real. So it was just because it was a quick thing we had to do because we didn't want to spend the time really going through all that ramification of getting it decked out, and wow, that never thought of that, so yeah, you're right. There's time and money.
Yeah, absolutely. It always comes, it doesn't matter what business, it's always time and money.
Yes,
always time and money. Well, let's talk a little bit in this segment about training animals. You've done that too, and you're a wrangler. Do you remember the first horse you ever trained or worked with on a set?
Actually, yes, I do. It was on a big Civil War movie we did, and it was a big gray horse, and Robert E. Lee, the character, was going to be riding it, and we had twins. You always have a pair of horses to match in case one of them goes bad or something like that. And the general public's not going to see slight differences in them, but what you got to watch out for is if they're too much taller, too much smaller. So you try to match the horses. And we had this one wrangler friend of ours that brought a horse in, but he was a little too hyped up, and he was just too energized. He wanted to go, go, go. So what we do in the morning, we get out there at 4 o'clock in the morning and start getting all the tack and saddles and up and horses up, and we'd saddle him up, and we all took turns riding him like crazy around the pins and everything just to get him out a little bit. And he did fine because they stand a lot. When you're just doing a scene where the officer's just looking at the battlefield, he's sitting there. That horse is going to stand there. And the funniest thing you always see in some of the older Westerns is they film it in a way where you see the horse at a profile or something. But horses are just like anything else. They're curious. And also you see his head look right at the camera. Well, he just blocked the actor. Well, and it's pretty funny. This one would do that. He'd just lean forward and look down at that camera and go like, and we'd go like, okay, we got to get him quit doing that. But yeah, you just spend time working with them, And again, as most people know about animals, their horses are herd animals. They like being in their group. If you've got horses that you're bringing to the set that are used to a certain animal, you can bring the whole pack to the herd and let them be off camera, and they're comfortable. They're sitting there, okay, here, my buddy's here, I'm okay. I don't have to do anything crazy,
Right.
And if they've worked in the film before, the horse are used to all that equipment. Sometimes that the panels or the lights and all these guys moving around the rips and the electrics and all the cables, every rope, every piece of wire, sometimes small streams look like a snake to a horse. Right. And you got to get them over that, so they're not going to go like, my God, that's a snake down. No, it's not. It's an electric cable. Don't do anything. You're fine. So, yeah. It's kind of fun with that.
That's really cool that you said that about the snake and the electrical cord, because they see things different than we do.
Yes, they do.
That's what else, like something else like that. I think that's so fascinating when you take a horse to the city, like I've done for events, everything they see is different than what I see.
Right. And if they're used to working, say we're on a ranch somewhere out in the wilds out there or whatever, and you're working with them, you're getting ready to do a scene. We did one in Little Rock, Arkansas, in the cobblestone streets, right? And they said, okay, fine, we'll get the horse out here and we'll work them. Well, then we get downtown, and I'm actually driving a Barouche, which is a single horse carriage, real fancy carriage. And I've got a lady on this thing, in fact, the principal actress. And I'm going like, okay, and the name horse was Gloria. And I was thinking, okay, Gloria, you've been down this road before. And she was well trained, and she was Amish trained. That horse acted better than anybody on the set, did nothing perturb her, and she just stood there. But she finally, they get tired. So what do you think a horse does when they get tired? Well, all of a sudden their body shifts. Well, they're 4 legs, right? Well, so she'd shift her left foot forward, and then, she'd get her body to catch up. Then shift her right foot. Well, she just moved off her mark, like 2 or 3 feet. And they said, okay, Marvin, back her up. So I'd back her up, and she'd stand there 30 minutes and look around. And finally, I said, the right foot forward. Maybe I won't notice this, and move the body, So it's like, you guys, the horse is getting bored. Get the shot, get it set up, then we'll come bring in the rig in there with the actress. And finally, to a point, I just got so bored that the lady that was with me in the cab in the Barouche, she goes, I'm getting bored too. Can we go for a ride? So I got on the phone. I got on the radio. We have radios. I got on the radio with the head wrangler, and I said, we're going around the block, and we're at the courthouse. And I just took a ride around the block. Well, that's what the horse needed too, is just to move, Came back and stood for another hour, So, but
just had to reset.
Yeah, just have to reset, get her to focus back. But if they're out in the fields and you bring them into a situation like that, you got to get them acclimated to it. It's not fair to them because they don't know, and they see, like say, they see different. They look at everything. Horses see everything. We're so used to focusing right here, but the horses are looking short range, long range, all around them, and they want to see all that movement. If you're moving around them, they're going to be looking, So who's this guy coming up behind me here, and what's he doing, kind of thing.
Absolutely. So. Well, I mean, they're prey animals, and that's in their DNA is survival, and that's what it is.
Survival. And it's like I said, if you got a horse and you've got his buddy with him, and you may have that horse just off camera next to him over there, he's comfortable. He's a buddy, and he's not panicking. And if you're not panicking, and as you know, as a rider, if you get on a horse and you're a little tensed up and nervous, and you tighten up, what do you think that horse is sensing?
Absolutely. He'll take your lead.
Wrong here. I need to leave, or I'm going to get this guy off me and start getting rambunctious, on you. So, all that comes to play.
Yeah. When we travel with a younger horse or maybe one that's not exposed, maybe off the ranch, it's never been exposed to asphalt, we'll always, take another horse, or we'll take a goat or something just to calm them down. And it really helps. Be comfortable with them. Yeah, it's kind of like me. I got to travel with somebody too, keep me calm.
Yeah, the funniest team I ever worked with, this guy, we had a longhorn cow or a longhorn bull that was going to be in a scene. Well, the storyline, they wanted a longhorn cow. Well, we didn't have one, so he had this longhorn bull, and we still apologize to that poor guy to make him think he's a female. But so we're on the set, and his buddy was a camel. They were mates. And it was like, okay. And I asked the head wrangler, I said, what are we going to do about that? And he's, well, I'll bring him. So in the background, the first 3 or 4 takes, they didn't see each other. So the camel started braying looking for his buddy. And they're talking to each other. And we're going, well, that ain't going to work. So we had to bring the camel and put it in the stall next to where the bull was. And it looked like they were trying to milk it, right? Well, it's kind of strange. Yeah. But that camel sat there, and then they were calm because they could see each other. You didn't separate them. Yeah.
I love stories like that. I love stories like that. Well, we're going to have more stories when we come back from break on the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show with Marvin Schroeder.
Scott will be right back with more.
Hi, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, heard on KCAA Fridays, 3 p.m. Pacific. I'd like to talk to you about something I'm very passionate about. Those that know me know I love my coffee. In the morning, afternoon, and even late in the evening, I enjoy a good cup of coffee almost any time of the day. Now, my team at the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show has been working for several months on creating and introducing our own brand of coffee. We wanted to make sure that we got it just right. We don't want to put our name on anything unless we're 100% certain that it's the best product available, and we've finally done it. We have created a wonderful line of coffees, 13 fantastic flavors offered in whole bean, ground, and K-Cups. Any way you like to brew your coffee. Now, each of our coffees carries our brand, the very same brand that we put on our horses, our trailers, and our chaps. So you know that this is a quality product. And we only use 100% Arabica beans, the very best beans available. Just listen to some of these wonderful blends and flavors. Jamaican Me Crazy, Honduran San Marcos, Chocolate Cherry Amaretto, Breakfast Blend, and my very favorite, Haley's Blend. A coffee so good, we named it after my daughter. You can order these coffees today by going online to javacowboy.com. That's javacowboy.com. And if you order today, you can get an extra 10% off your final purchase just by entering the promo code COWBOY on checkout. Remember, that's promo code COWBOY for an extra 10% off. Just go to javacowboy.com to order your coffee today. Hello, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I want to tell you about a product I've tried and I love, and I feel the Cowboy Entrepreneur audience will as well. It's Rebellious Infusions. Rebellious Infusions, they're little packets of flavor. And you know, it gets hot in South Texas, over 100 degrees every day. And I like my water, but it's water. So I use these infusions, put them in my water. It makes it cold. It's great flavor, 0 sugar, 0 calories. It's pure energy infusions. Rebellious Infusions. Go to drinkrebellious.com or on all social media platforms. Drink Rebellious. Hi, and welcome back to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Scott Knudsen, with our special guest, Marvin Schroeder. And Marvin is, weapons master. He's a props manager. He's a wrangler, and so many great stories. And we've been telling some stories about the animals in the movies and some fun things to learn from that. But let's talk actors and actresses.
Okay.
Yeah, immediately.
Loaded subject right there now.
Absolutely, but so let's talk about the actors and actresses that maybe worked with you with horses. Mm-hmm. Is there anyone that has just taken up to a horse and knew what they were doing and took instruction well and really sold that role?
Well, and that's real easy to say now. Again, most all the actors, if they're been around a while, they have agents. Well, if they're looking for jobs, they want a job just like anybody else does. So their agents will sell that actor to a production company, say, "Oh yeah, my guy can do this, that, the other," and all of a sudden they show up and you look at them and they're going like, "Okay, let's go get saddled up and go for a ride," and they look at you like a deer in headlights, and you can tell real fast, "Uh-oh." So you got to take that edge off of them and get them comfortable around the animals. And that's a simple process. So in the morning when we're saddling the horse and getting ready, we'll usually bring the actors in early to kind of be around that a little bit and see the action, what's going on. And so the animals are comfortable too. But yeah, most of them take it really well. Every now and then you get a guy that shows up and he's all in. He knows what he's doing. You don't have to say, in fact, they're over there checking your work, make sure you've got it rigged out right, and that headstall's on good, or he's got the bit in the right place, and I've seen so many that go wrong. Or they're looking at that lighter leather, make sure there's not a small cut in or something like that. So if they jerk on it, it's not going to tear or break or whatever. And that's a good sign of a horseman, as you know. And they're checking that length on that stirrup. We don't set the stirrups until the actor gets there to kind of get an idea, because sometimes long-legged, short-legged, or whatever. Right. And you don't want to, cinch that horse up too tight anyway, so he can breathe, this kind of thing. So it's fun to work with that. And then some actors look at you and go like, "Well, I got this," and they really don't. They may have a different style of riding. There's all different kinds of style. Cowboy saddles are different than English saddles, we all know. And boy, there's a whole different style. But if you get somebody that really has been through all that, knows that stuff, it's a blessing, because all you want to do is make sure their rig is right, the horse is right, they're all good to go. And the guy walks up, mounts up, and okay, let's go to the set, perfect. But you get a lot of them that aren't. You really do.
Well, it helps the movie be sellable.
Sure does.
So, and when you get an actor or an actress in, and you're working with the horse to make sure they're not looking at the camera and getting in the camera side like you were just talking about, and you're having to make sure this guy doesn't just fall off, not get thrown off. The horses are trained, but just fall off. Yeah. So then you're taking care of two animals, basically.
Well, yeah, and also there's another thing about sitting on a horse for a long period of time. If you're not used to it, as well, it's in your hips and your legs and your knees. That's going to get tired worse, and you're going to get cramps or muscle spasms or whatever. So we tell them, relax, but sit up straight. Don't hunch over. You're not like 80 years old. And relax those reins. Don't keep pulling on those reins because you're giving that horse a whole different signal there. And if you're more relaxed, that horse is going to relax. And they're looking at you like, well, I got to hang on. No, you don't. The horse not going anywhere. Just sit in the middle. Sit comfortable. Balance yourself in the saddle, and everything's fine. The saddles today, and even the Midwestern saddles, are very good to comfortable sit on. What are not are a lot of your military type saddles. The McClellan saddle is probably one of the hardest saddles to get comfortable and learn, and it was used ever since 1859 all the way up to the 1900s. The last time we used that saddle was in 1914, 1915, but it went through different modification. But it's still a McClellan, and it's a military saddle. It's not designed for roping or doing anything. It doesn't have a horn on it, But it's got all these tie points where you can hang all kinds of stuff off of it. But yeah, it takes a lot of getting training to them. And you want to get out there every day if they can to get a little time in the saddle, so to speak.
Absolutely. I love that. So I'm not asking for names, but what do you do with somebody that comes out there that's hired that the agent says they can ride and really they can't, they don't take instructions and you got to do a scene. So how do you work with them to get them where it's at least safe?
Well, the first thing you're going to do, and what we learned to do is you take them on individually, and we would assign one of us to go with them and take them off to themselves with that horse and just stand with the horse. We're not even getting on the horse, don't have to go, and just be talking to them and get comfortable around the horse. And anybody knows if you're going to walk around the horse, get up close to that horse. You don't stand off 3 feet away from the horse and walk around it because the horse can't see you. What's that first thing he's thinking he might do is kick you, or he'll nip at you, or whatever, or paw. So get them to come to that horse and then say, look, do you have pets? You want to learn about where are you from, and where'd you get on? What do you think you want to do with this, and what's your idea? What you want to do? You get that guy or gal to feel comfortable, where they're really not paying attention to the horse, but they're next to it, and the horse gets to smell them, feel them, and sense they're comfortable. And then finally, eventually, you say, okay, well, why don't we get on the horse? And then you might get up there first or whatever and show them how it's done or whatever. But just get them really focused off of the mission, but being in a good footprint with them. And we start usually in a large pen or something. A lot of times you put them in. If you put a horse in a round pen, what do you think the horse is thinking already?
Yeah,
it's buckaroo time. We ain't doing that. The horse saying, okay, we're going to go have some fun here. No, we're not. See, but you don't want them loose out in the field somewhere where they're going to take off on you.
Yeah.
You just have to really get the people comfortable with them. I like getting the actors out there early enough where I say, okay, we got your horse over here in the stall. Let's go get him saddled up. And they look at me and go like, okay. And you walk them through that. Let them help you saddle it up. Hand me that, hand me this, hand me this. And here's the order of procedure, what we're going to do. And make sure and they start learning from ground zero.
Yeah.
The horse is 1,200 pounds. And so if he's going to step somewhere, he steps on your foot, you're going to know it. But he's got steel cleats on like a football player. You're going like, oh, okay. I didn't know that, and give them their space, but give them time to work with animals.
I love how you set up that trust relationship and you make it so comfortable just conversating with them. And
exactly. And if the person you're working with sees you're comfortable too, that also helps. And you just become, hey, well, I'm from a small town. I did this. Okay, well, that's great. So was I. You get them totally off subject. But just moving around that animal, I might be doing something with the horse while I'm talking to them, but nothing with the horse. And they're going like, oh, well, this is okay. This is like getting in my car and go for a drive. Exactly. How'd you learn how to drive? Well, my dad taught me. Okay, well, same thing. That's kind of what you do.
I love that. I love it. Something that's not natural, you make it natural. You make it comfortable.
Exactly.
And you ride with your face. You can see if somebody's nervous or if they're relaxed, if they're enjoying it, or if they're a leader. And that's on the camera.
It's on the camera.
I had a friend of mine call me and say, hey, I just watched this commercial and this guy was riding a horse through a drive-through and the actor couldn't ride.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can see that right there.
Yes. And it's just, and one of the key things, and one of the fun things to tell is when you're first riding, keep your mouth closed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Don't clench your teeth, but keep your mouth closed. Bits and parts bite off real easy. And if you get bounced around, you're going to end up getting beat up, so to speak, and learn how to set that seat. That's the biggest thing right there. But get that, like you say, that comfort zone, relax, and don't let you don't want the horse to know that you're scared. and the horse doesn't want you to know that he's scared.
Yeah,
so both of you have to come to that meeting ground, and it takes time.
Yeah, I love that. How do you do that? How do you give a crash course? Say if it's a Western saddle, but if it's a war movie, they're riding a completely different saddle. So how do you give a crash course on the posture and whether you post or not, or whether you sit deep in the saddle?
The same thing. You get them out there in time. You've got to, and what you've got to impress upon the production company or whatever it is give us the quality time we need to train both ends of that, the horse and the person. And I've done several cavalry movies where, there's 40, 50 of us on a horse, and you'll throw a stuntman in there. Well, most of the stuntmen are saddled. They know how to ride, but it's getting the posture and sitting like a soldier and carrying the equipment right. And they'll look at you and go like, oh, I didn't know I was going to carry all this stuff. And I say, oh, yeah, you are. And, of course, they're full padded up because they're going to take a fall or something. And they know their field. They know their job. Or they're not a stuntman. They wouldn't be there if they didn't. But an actor is a whole different ball game. You're going to get them to set right, hold that range right, got where they can grab their saber or their carbine or whatever they got to do, and you do that on the ground and then get them up on the saddle to learn all that. Yeah, but it does take time. You're not going to do that on the day. All of a sudden, Monday morning, I got Scott showing up, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're going to go get on a saddle and go right off in the sunset. And I'm going like, no, we're not.
Yeah, he's a green hand.
Scott's going to be here a week before, if nothing else, and we schedule that time for him, so. And then if Scott shows up and says, well, I've been riding since I was 8 years old, I can tell real quick the minute you walk up that horse and start handling that. And okay, fine, go for it.
Right. Well, the actors have to love you being there, especially with your expertise, because you're going to make them look better in the movie or the TV show.
That's the point.
You're going to make them look better.
You'd be surprised how many times that line actually comes out of us. We'll say, hey, my job is only one thing, to make it safe, make it authenticity as best we can do, but to make you look good. And most of the actors then are going like, oh, God, you're getting paid to do a job on front of that camera. I'm getting paid to do my job behind the camera so you can do your job.
Love that.
And that helps them relax real fast, too. They know that they got that safety man right there. He's your safety net. How'd that look? A lot of them will come up over to you after they'll do a scene. They won't go to the director. They'll come over to us and say, well, how do we look? And I said, oh, okay, you look fine. You're doing fine. Because you're waiting for the director to direct them and maybe, well, do this or do that or do that. Subtle stuff. And the directors pick up pretty quick on how accurate they are and how comfortable they are, what they're doing, but they'll come up to you all the time and say, well, how'd I look? You look fine. Just sit up straight in the saddle next time. Oh, okay.
I love that, man. I love that they go up to you and ask. That shows they care. They care about the quality of the work.
They do. It's their job. Yeah, their quality and what they're trying to get forward. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we talked about your first horse. What was another fun animal that you trained for either a movie or a TV set? That
probably working with dogs. And there's different breeds of dogs. People say some are smarter than others, and I believe that. But all dogs are just like, they want to be your friend. They want to work with you. They want to be around you. They're part of that. They want to be that family. And if you give dog that leadership to go into there, they're going to be a part. They want to perform. And you don't see a lot of dogs in westerns because hounds are more correct for that period. You don't see one of those Malinois in there. You're not going to see a German Shepherd. You're not going to see these fancy dogs in a western because that's not correct. Right. So you get these hounds, and we pick them up just anywhere we can. If we can find them, and start working them as puppies and getting them used to that stuff. And it's fun how they adapt. They adapt real fast. And they're fast learners, And of course, there are some people say, well, you give them treats or you don't give them treats. There's both schools of thought, and I've seen both of them work, either way. But probably the most challenging thing we ever did one time was worked with an alligator. And he was like 6 foot long, and they're fairly docile. They're not aggressive. They don't come after you unless they're hungry. And they're also more inhibited by you because, you're a different thing. But they just kind of sit there and lazy, and they like to sleep a lot. It's like, hey, wake up, buddy. We got a scene to do here. And all they wanted to do was walk across his camp. Like, there's a bunch of campers camping. He was going to walk across the scene. And, of course, we got him used to doing that with fish, naturally, And so we held a fish on a stick, and he'd follow that. And just off camera, we were about a foot off camera where they couldn't see him. And he'd come walking across that set. And we did it in 2 takes, and he was fine. They took him back to wherever he lived. I don't know who he belonged to.
I don't know, but you make it sound so simple. So who was the first guy to put a fish on a stick and lead an alligator? Say, okay, let's see.
It's just something we thought of it on the day, saying, okay, how are we going to get this done,
I
But the
love
alligator,
that.
they had him do it, and he was fine. I think it was a he. I'm not sure, but yeah, he was fine. Never snake. The dead dangerous end of an alligator is their tail. As long
Mm.
as you stay in front of them, you can hold an alligator's mouth shut with 2 fingers. It's not their. It's this. They open it, but once you get it closed, they can't open it. They're pretty straightforward. But that tail, you got to watch out because they hit you pretty hard. So.
Wow, I love the confidence, man. It makes me think I can go wrangle an alligator. I think I'm gonna stick with horses, but I'm a horse and cow guy, so I'm gonna probably stick in that field. But
Yeah, same here. Yeah, listen,
yeah,
alligators have a special place, but and a lot of people don't realize how big they can be and how heavy they can be. And again,
huge.
if they're hungry, and they're coming after food. So that's just you got to respect them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked alligators, dogs, camels, horses.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us one more before break? One more cool animal that
Probably was some. We had some penguins.
Penguins.
Penguin, yes. And we had a person that actually had these things, and they're very intelligent. And they were doing a scene where it's kind of a comedic scene where these 2 penguins were going to walk through this house, like they live there. And they're going, and they go out the back door, and they jump in the swimming pool, they swim around and come back out. And then this guy goes and he gets a towel, and he towels them off, and they walk back into the bedroom. And the guy's standing there going, "Hey, this. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you, but I got some strange pets." And the guy goes, "Really?" But they did fine. They were, and they're food oriented. We have fish for them or something like that, and they sit there and look at you. I'm not doing anything else to give you something to eat. Okay. All right. And they can be aggressive. But they're pretty good. Yeah, they can be pretty good size. But they're very protective of them, their little clan or group or whatever. But yeah, and you get the look. They get to looking at you like, are they looking at me like I'm lunch, or are they looking at me like I'm supposed to do something here? So yeah.
It's time to throw them a fish.
Yeah, time to give them something to eat. And they got a great sense of smell for it. So okay, yeah, they know that pouch on your hip's got their sardines or whatever in it, and they're going like, I like what you got in that pouch. Okay, no problem.
Oh man, how cool is that? I love it, man. I love it. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back on the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show with more great stories from Marvin and talk about accurate history and where to find it and what it is. Okay. We'll be right back.
All righty.
Thank you for listening to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. Scott will be right back with more. For more information on Scott Knudsen, the Cowboy Entrepreneur, visit us online at cowboyentrepreneur.com.
Hi, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, heard on KCAA Fridays, 3 p.m. Pacific. I'd like to talk to you about something I'm very passionate about. Those that know me know I love my coffee. In the morning, afternoon, and even late in the evening, I enjoy a good cup of coffee almost any time of the day. Now, my team at the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show has been working for several months on creating and introducing our own brand of coffee. We wanted to make sure that we got it just right. We don't want to put our name on anything unless we're 100% certain that it's the best product available, and we've finally done it. We have created a wonderful line of coffees, 13 fantastic flavors offered in whole bean, ground, and K-Cups, any way you like to brew your coffee. Now, each of our coffees carries our brand, the very same brand that we put on our horses, our trailers, and our chaps. So you know that this is a quality product. And we only use 100% Arabica beans, the very best beans available. Just listen to some of these wonderful blends and flavors. Jamaican Me Crazy, Honduran San Marcos, Chocolate Cherry Amaretto, Breakfast Blend, and my very favorite, Haley's Blend. A coffee so good, we named it after my daughter. You can order these coffees today by going online to javacowboy.com. That's javacowboy.com. And if you order today, you can get an extra 10% off your final purchase just by entering the promo code COWBOY on checkout. Remember, that's promo code COWBOY for an extra 10% off. Just go to javacowboy.com to order your coffee today. Hello, I'm Scott Knudsen, host of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I want to tell you about a product I've tried and I love, and I feel the Cowboy Entrepreneur audience will as well. It's Rebellious Infusions. Rebellious Infusions, they're little packets of flavor. And it gets hot in South Texas, over 100 degrees every day. And I like my water, but it's water. So I use these infusions, put them in my water. It makes it cold. It's great flavor, 0 sugar, 0 calories. It's pure energy infusions. Rebellious infusions. Go to drinkrebellious.com or on all social media platforms. Drink Rebellious. Hi, and welcome back to the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Scott Knudsen, here with Marvin Schroeder. And Marvin, I'm having so much fun learning and just hearing about history and Westerns and acting for sure. Let's go into living history. You do a lot of reenactments. So you do live theater, you do the movies and TV, so the live reenactments. Can you explain what that is and how that's different?
Yes, it's a great question because so many people get this all mixed up. There's a reenactment is like, okay, we're going to do the Battle of Shiloh. So both sides get out there and they have a miniature war, like you find, doing their movements, and they set it up to a certain point, and you just let the natural ebb and flow follow with it. And that's called a reenactment. Or if you're doing, like I said, the Battle of San Jacinto, you're doing the battle itself. So you set it up and let the actors, the reenactors, carry it out. Well, we know how it came out. Okay, we know how it ends, and that's the end of it, what we do it. Living history is different. You carry on a role of a persona, of a person that actually lived in history, and you try to convince the public this is what that person did, or how they did, or what they did, or how they lived. So if you're doing the life of a farmer and his family in living history world, say 1850, you got the clothes and all the equipment and all the stuff that does that, but you got to know how to use it and talk about it. But you also have a difference of what they call first person or third person. First person means I'm Jack Hayes. I'm a Texas Ranger in 1842. Third person is, hey, I'm going to tell you about Jack Hayes of 1842. Gotcha. So that's the big difference is reenactors got to have fun with it and reenact stuff. Living history is you're teaching history through characterization, almost like a play, just same thing.
Wow. It's just so fascinating and it's so needed. And I appreciate everyone that does that. So history doesn't die. It just keeps going.
Right.
And I love that. So when you're doing a movie or doing, history, whether it's reenactments or living history, the purebred quarter horse or purebred thoroughbred now has changed since the mid 1800s so much.
Oh, yes.
There was more Mustang influence and more different influences. How do you match that many horses to what the period was?
You really can't. And now, we've got a lot of those wild horses out there that people are trying to save or protect or whatever, because that is a uniqueness to them of their own, but they're not brought into that industry. So our modern horses and, the cowboys and the people that work on all this, they see that. But you're really not going to get much out of that, not going to be able to change that much. You can go into that and bring some Mustangs in, but remember, those are Mustangs. And they take a lot more training, and they're a lot harder to train. So you're fine with the other horses. A lot of times people will say, well, the Indians like paint horses. They like it. Indians liked any horse that did the job. That horse was a tool to them. That's all it was. So it wasn't a prescribed horse. Okay, all the Indians rode paint horses. No, they didn't. They rode what they had or what they could get, and if it did the job for them, so there it is. So, you have that issue.
See, I love that. And I love you said that because so many people think that was the only horse they rode, but, whatever they could find. And depends on the part of the country where they were. You look at history, you can figure out pretty quick what was the predominant horse in that area. That's what you lead with, But then, if you see a horse out there in a solid collar or something like that, it's no big deal. They got them too. A lot of people don't realize a lot of Indians also rode mules. Or they'll ride whatever they got because, again, it did the job. And of course, we know that you're going to ride a mule. You're also asking for some other issues that come up with mules, and horses are different. The mule can be a little more stubbornish, but a mule is more sturdy and foot-wise than a horse is in a lot of rough country. And they have some other attributes a horse doesn't have. And it takes somebody that really knows what they're doing with them to work that. But, I think it's so fascinating. What's one question that you're asked all the time, like when you're on a movie set or a TV set, say by a producer or director, probably a director, getting a shot? What do they ask you? Like, what would look best? Or are they saying, I want this shot. Can you do this?
Yeah, you get the most question you get is you're there just to provide them either a historical background or either a safety net or like weapons or animals, whatever you're doing. And they'll turn and say, okay, we've got everybody dressed up correctly in this time. So they have this guy draw a gun or something, do something like that. And you don't want to bully the director. You're not going to run over them. You let them do what they're going to do. It's their movie. But you say, well, sir, this is the way they would do this. And they say, oh, okay, they wouldn't do that way. Well, not really. No, that's not that correct. And let them take it for where they're going to run with it. Now, if it's a historical piece, you're working in consort with that and make it right. But just as a art piece, they're going to draw out of what they want to do. And I've done a lot of those where they go, okay, that makes sense. And they'll look at it and go, well, it doesn't really work for the camera. Camera angles and the lens is a trick, because it doesn't see the same thing like you would think. And you've got to fix that. You got to treat that. And working with guns on a movie set, especially in close proximity, there's so many other considerations. And number one is safety. Is how we're going to make that shot look good without having issues. Well, that's where we step in and say, okay, we do this. And in our weapon system, we had different ammunition for that. You have half loads, quarter loads, full loads, or just primer cap loads, something that gives you the look. And then later they'll add the sound effects over that. The beautiful thing about film today is with the digital capabilities, they can do a lot more with it than we could when you're running raw film. That's a lot more challenging.
Oh, well, I was going to say, the guns sound different, when you're shooting, and the smoke that comes out or the fire powder is different. Right.
And one of the weakest things we see all the actors do, and it's nobody's fault, but if you've never shot a 6-gun live, it jumps in your hand. It's going to have a recoil. It's Newton's third law. Every action has an opposite and equal reaction. Bullet goes that way, gun goes this way. So to get them to react that way according to how the weapon works, that's one of the biggest, hardest things to show in a film. Most people don't react, or they overreact. They make that 45 look like a 44-40 going off in their hand, and it goes over the shoulder. You go, no. It's not that bad. A lot of times they'll take actors to a live range and let them fire some live stuff.
Awesome. That's cool.
Now understand the language. At a live range, not on a movie set. Golden rule, you don't bring live ammunition to a movie set. That's a no-no. And you never mix your stuff up. That's where we come in play. We're the safety guys for that. So if say you're going to act on a movie and they say, all right, you're going to be a gunslinger, you're going to be shooting a lot of guns, and then Marvin, we need to get him more wound up on that. So I'm going to hook up with a live range somewhere. We'll go there with different weapons that are going to do the same thing and let you shoot and practice and get the feel of it. And so you can get that action down. And then when we get on the set, you'll know what you're doing with it. It's just that simple.
I love that. It's simple. But see, you're good at it. And, and the movie is relying really on you. Of course, the actors, the director, and all that stuff. But you have the animals. You've got the safety of the riders. Making sure everything's historically accurate the best you can. So there's a lot of responsibility there for sure. The
other thing I see a lot of times in movies when guys riding horses are shooting off of the horse. What's the worst thing you can do is shoot between the horse's ears with a gun. What do you think that horse is going to do?
Absolutely.
You're going to be on the ground and he's going to be in the next county. If he doesn't come back and stomp you because he didn't like what you just did. So you teach that, and there is ways to do that, and you've got to think about what did they do. It doesn't make sense. Right. I worked on a movie where we got attacked, and we had to lay our horses down and shoot over them. Well, that was a military tactic we did. When I think about that, I'm going like, how dumb was that? Because they shoot my horse, now I'm afoot. But that's what they did. But you get those horses to learn to lay down, and that takes a very specially trained horse to do that. And remember, the blanks are not as loud as live rounds are, and so they can add the sound later. So it might be a very light round. We have rules that govern what kind of ammunition we can use around horses. So that all helps too. But it's giving the actors all the tools and the animals the understanding. That's what we do.
Right. I love that, man. I love that so much. Man, there's so many questions I want to ask you. So do you have something out for history? Because it's so great, and I think history over time gets watered down. And,
it does.
And do you have something like online where people can, this is one of the questions, do you teach this in schools, or is there an online program that you have so people can learn about history?
Well, not really on our side, we don't, but I get a call a lot. Like, in fact, right after this program, I'm going to be going to our local college satellite and doing a program on, ready for this, movie and guns.
I
So
love it.
play right off this. So we get a lot of calls. We'll go up and show up and do stuff like that. That's why I'm in my outfit today. So we do that. We do make schools if a school wants to come there, or if we have an off-site place, we can bring the school children, and it's all got to meet all the criteria of whatever safety rules they have in place. And you work with that, and you say, okay, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to talk about a movie or do something with a movie. And it's fun to do, but you've got to remember, in today's society, it's knowledge which is the power. And people running off, with this, I don't like guns, or I don't know this. Well, what do you know about them? If you don't know anything about them, how can you make an assessment? They're whatever it is. Right. So it's just like anything else. I'm going to go change the engine in my car. Have you ever done that? Or maybe you need to get a mechanic over to help you. So that's what it is. It's learning the knowledge.
Like an actor meeting a horse for the first time, thinking he knows everything about that horse, but he really does. But once he knows the horse and understands it,
yes,
they build that relationship.
They become partners. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man, I love that. Man, I can't believe we're almost out of time. So educate us a little bit more. So let's talk. We were talking beforehand. Maybe some slogans or some sayings and the whole 9 yards. Yeah. The whole 9 yards. And,
well,
you got me on
that one doesn't. Here, okay, so here's a fun thing. You go to a school program, and they'll tell the kids and say, okay, I'm going to sell you a term, and you tell me what it means. And you say something like flash in the pan. And maybe the teachers might have heard this before, but the young students, they go, I've never heard that. What is that? Well, flash in the pan by our colloquialism today means, he's going to be a flash in the pan. He's not going to last. He's not good at his job, whatever. But it relates way back in early history to the flintlock rifle or pistol. If you put the powder in the little pan up there and it just flashes but doesn't ignite the charge, it's not going to go off. We call it a flash in the pan, which relates to the same thing. It didn't work. It's not going to work. Okay. That's another one. If you walk into a hardware store and you tell the guy, hey, I want the whole 9 yards, or better yet, I want the lock, stock, and barrel. And they look at you, what? Well, I'm building this thing, and I need the lock, stock, and barrel. Well, in 19th century, it meant I want a barrel, I want the lock, and I need the stock to put this rifle together. So that's what it relates to. So modern terms, more modern, if you will, let's say you're on a World War II aircraft carrier, and you just landed your plane, you've got to go back up and fight some more. You jump out of that cockpit, and you turn to your mechanic, and you say, give me the whole 9 yards and fill her up, Mac. Well, it's obvious when you say fill her up, Mac, she's out of gas. The whole 9 yards represents the amount of ammunition that can fit in that ammo can of 50 cal was 9 yards long. And when I tell that to kids, they always go, 9 yards. Well, that's something about football or basketball or soccer. No, it's not. But we say today, give me the whole 9 yards. That means give me everything you got on that table. I'll take the whole 9 yards. But it relates to another subject.
Everything relates back to history, and I love that.
Exactly. It's all historical. It comes back into there. So there's a lot of those kind of terms that we've lost track of that history, and people understand where it comes from.
Well, that's why it's so important about what you do, and I can't wait to share the second part of this show, is because it is interesting, and it's good to know where it comes from, for sure.
Right.
What's something a kid, or a child in a school or somewhere has asked you, like a question that's just so innocent, but it's so funny about history?
What a lot of them ask us is, okay, you've got a horse, you're going to go for a long ride, so how do you feed him? Does he carry a canteen? Well, yes, you do. You carry a couple. You might carry a couple of canteens, but you carry your feed bag. You put them in your saddlebag because remember, that's your transportation. If you don't have water between A and B where you're going, that horse is going to stop. And horses only go as far until they're tired, they're done, they're going to stop. They might lay down, and you're going to go like, we got to go. The Indians are coming. The horse looks at you, so I ain't going anywhere. I'm tired. And a lot of people think, well, okay, I'm gonna watch the movies. And how many times have we seen the Lone Ranger ride like the devil halfway through the movie? They never walk the horse. They never trot. They always ride as hard as they can. Well, in reality, as we all know, horses aren't going to do that. You got about 20 minutes that kind of run with them, and they're going to stop. They're tired. So, if you're going to get on a horse and ride between here and Austin, they go like, oh, well, I can drive there in an hour and a half. Well, try 8 days on horseback if you're lucky.
Hard ride 8 days. Hard.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
well, I loved it in the movies whenever the horse is never sweaty. The guy's shirt's still pressed. And,
Oh yeah.
Usually they lather up. That saying. Well, here's one: ridden hard and put up wet. In those movies, you don't see that sometimes.
You don't see that.
Tombstone did, but
well, and that's the difference of reality when these people start looking at this and going like, we want to show the nitty gritty and the reality of it all, and that's really hard to come across screen sometimes. And sometimes they'll take it to the far extreme. I look sometimes at some of the language, and they get a little off color with that language, and it's every other word is bad. I'm not sure where that is. So of course I wasn't there, but I would like to think that people didn't talk like that just to talk like that. Right. You hit your thumb with a hammer, you're going to say something, but it's not every other word. In that language, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. And you know a whole lot more about it than I do, but I don't think you would talk that way. I think some people had culture, but I think it's filler. When I see it in a Western or something like that, I see it as filler. I would rather see them do something historical that I can learn from or understand, or take that aha moment that I can use the next day saying, hey, did you see this? Did you know this? Right.
Well, and here's the other thing, too, is you got to realize, too, back then, and I'd say 100 years ago even more so, even in the early 1900s, I still believe that overall humanity was a lot more religious than they are today in so many ways. And we believed in the group organization of comradeship. People work together. Nowadays, you see somebody down on the side of the road. You going to stop and help them? Probably not. You're going to keep driving. Oh, they've already got a phone. They can call somebody. But how many times have we seen that? But in the days back when a wagon breaks down, everybody would stop and help them get back up and running, or their horse goes lame or something. That was pretty standard because you're spread out. There's not the population. So everybody kind of relied on each other. The barter system is another key thing, I think, in our early century, where people, would share produce or stuff instead of buying or paying for something. They shared. And that brought you together differently.
Well, yeah, because you're depending on somebody else for a part of your meal. And our tools to build your barn. And
we couldn't you couldn't mount up your horse and go right down to the Amazon store and get what you needed, could you?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
That hardware store carried it all, and it providing that they could get it.
Wow. I love it, man. Well, Marvin, thank you so much for being on our show. And I know you got to go do a class, and I wish I was in town to go listen to it. But thank you so much for being on the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. Thank you for keeping history alive. It's so important.
Thanks for having me. You bet.
Yeah. And thank you all for watching the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show.
Thank you to all the great sponsors of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show. If you or your business is interested in being a sponsor of the Cowboy Entrepreneur Show, please call our office at 830-992-1786 or visit our website, cowboyentrepreneur.com.
KCAA helps support the Unforgettables Foundation.